So there you go. That was the match portion. And then we get to the post match, and Moxley's just screaming into the camera. He like smashes it. And then Yuta grabs a bottle of like some chemical or disinfectant is what they are explaining it to be. And they pour it onto Orange Cassidy's wounds on his forehead. And that prompts Hangman Page to come down with a chair. But he takes out Wheeler Yuta and has this stare down with Jon Moxley. It's like, okay, so we're teasing this. And then Christian Cage pops up out of nowhere to deliver the kill switch onto Jon Moxley, and Page is holding his contract and then hands it over to Christian Cage, playing off their recent alliance on television for that tag match. And then Page is limping off to the back. Cage is left alone with Moxley, but then Jay White appears out of nowhere and hits Cage with a Blade Runner as his revenge for getting screwed in the Owen. And then he gets jumped by Claudio and Pac, so the Death Riders take off. That's that chapter. And so cut to the parking lot. Never a good signal in professional wrestling when we're cutting to the parking lot with minutes to go. And the Death Riders are walking towards their pickup truck. And when you know it, a truck barrels into this pickup truck and takes it out. So the Death Riders
it was going to be a death ride that they just avoided.
That should have been the end, them getting in the pickup truck. But then they just commandeer someone else's vehicle, and the Death Riders take off.
The best part of this was Pac just like delivering a running boot to the valet into like a bin or something. And,
I didn't
of course
even see that.
He's half naked, like he's in his underwear in the cold.
I was furiously taking notes about the 5,000 angles we're watching here in the last 2 minutes of this show. So they take off in this vehicle, and there is Darby Allin getting out of the vehicle that has taken out the pickup truck and just... come on, you fuckers, and let's end this shit right now. And as we're getting dangerously close to midnight, that's probably what the producer of this pay-per-view was also stating. And Darby destroys their pickup truck further. I think the damage was done. They got the message, but just to...
add a few more zeros to that bill, yeah, I guess.
So that's how the show ended, with Jon Moxley teasing matches with like half the locker room, taking him through, I think, Forbidden Door next summer. And a very wacky ending to this show. Very much in vogue with like AEW. I think the final half hour, it perfectly summarized AEW. Like, great, fantastic main event, wonky finish with the run-in, and then like all of this vehicular shit that just like it's the perfect summary of AEW at the moment. That this is all the AEW experience.
Too much at once.
I thought it was too much. Yes.
Yeah.
Like by the end of the, like, let's pick our direction, and instead of piling on the Hangman stuff and the Jay White stuff and the Christian Cage tease and Darby takes him out with a car at the end of it, I think sometimes they look at all these different layers and it's like, yes, this makes sense. I understand why Hangman is helping Christian. I understand the Jay White involvement. Like this, I'm not saying it's illogical, but you're stacking so much on top of me that instead of having a coherent vision, like what is the match I want to see most by the end of this? If the answer is Darby, then let's just focus everyone towards that, and that is the match you're clamoring for by the end of this. And I think you just clouded the issue, and you forget about half this stuff by the end of it. Like you can only, your capacity for retention is only so it's finite.
Yeah. Well, I thought Wrestle Dream ended with like that one big moment. You know, it was the death of Bryan Danielson and the rest of the roster reacting to the death of Bryan Danielson. So I think they nailed that. In this instance, I get the sense they wanted to end this one with a big thing as well. And what's bigger than one big thing? Well, multiple big things, right? And I definitely don't think like the Hangman Christian stuff was productive at all, or like I understand what they're trying to do. They want to. This is the way of maybe involving a Hangman and a Jay White and a Christian Cage into the orbit of this Death Rider story, but by the end of it, it all just kind of felt like it was a lot to process, and it also. By the end of this, whereas like I think the Danielson retirement was certainly a big newsworthy moment, this closing section of this pay-per-view teased a lot of possibly big moments coming out of it, but didn't really deliver on it. So they teased the cash-in, didn't get that. They teased, I guess, I don't know, a more significant vehicular attack from Darby Allin, in the end, didn't really do anything, right? Like, okay, like you ruined their rental car, like big deal. So in the end, like I wouldn't even say any of this was like
They might have put a
that
down
worthwhile.
payment. Okay, this might have been a purchase.
In the end, it didn't even feel like these angles were all that worthwhile, other than to just be able to say, okay, you've directly linked Hangman and Moxley.
And in all the things you're listing off, Way, like it sounds like silly that I'm even bringing this up, but like this was Orange Cassidy's first AEW championship match that he had to go for the title. It was within grasp, and Wheeler Yuta ripped that away from him, and that is like completely forgotten about. Like you're not coming out of this even thinking about like Orange Cassidy and his revenge on this guy taking this title shot away from him. Like that's just totally buried in just the sea of what we shot here at the end. And that should be a very important memory from this match. And yes, you can rehatch it on television, but like you're coming out of this, and if I'm listing like even like the top 3 takeaways of this main event, like that's not even in your top 3 things you're thinking about. It was a lot thrown out. And I just think I think sometimes you just need to kind of streamline this and have like a very clear direction. What's our pay-per-view main event next month? And we can go from there. That was Full Gear. I was still very high on this show. I don't think it was at the level I anticipated, but the highs were very high on this show. I thought in that succession of Mercedes Statlander, Jay White Hangman, and then Fletcher Ospreay, that was like almost 90 minutes of the show. And I think that was like damn near flawless. Like those 3 matches, I would highly, highly recommend. Fletcher and Ospreay might be some people's match of the year. And we don't do like ratings and stuff, but that gets my full 5. I think Takeshita and Ricochet was still very good, but it didn't hit my expectation level. And I think most would be consistent with that. And I was also very high on the main event angles and finish aside. I just thought Cassidy and Moxley were tremendous together, and I would put the main event on par with the other 3 matches I mentioned.
Yeah, I think AEW continues to maintain a very high level of quality with its pay-per-views. This show just kind of furthered that to me. We always have things that we can suggest that the show could do better, and this one had those. It was plagued by a latter 90 minutes that suffered from lack of crowd reaction, and you can at this point place fingers for reasons why that is. Is it because of the build? Is it strictly because of Ospreay versus Fletcher? Whatever. Something didn't click, and it took this show from being maybe a higher rated show to one where you could definitely point to faults. But my overall feeling coming out of it was that I was very entertained. I thought there was some great wrestling on the show. I thought there was one of the best matches of the year on the show. And let's not forget Big Boom AJ versus QT Marshall, which, I mean, for a 0 hour, sometimes we choose to include them in our review, like as part of our viewing experience, and sometimes we don't. I think in this one, like, we can't help but like feel like it was not an exhausting 0 hour, and it gave us something very entertaining in it. So I think that deserves to be mentioned as well.
It was an enjoyable show overall, and Big Boom AJ. Let's not bury the lead.
If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.